Settle into the quiet of this moment, dear listener, and let the world around you soften, as if draped in a gentle fog. Close your eyes if it feels right, or let your gaze rest on something soft and familiar, a flickering candle, a shadowed corner, the weave of a blanket beneath your fingers. Tonight, we are not here to chase excitement or unravel mysteries with urgency. Instead, we invite you to drift, to wander through a distant time, carried by the steady rhythm of a story told in whispers. This is boring history for sleep, where the past unfolds not with a shout, but with the calm, deliberate cadence of a lullaby. Our journey takes us to the heart of the 14th century, to a Europe caught in the grip of the Black Death, a time when the air was heavy with fear, when the toll of bells marked not just hours but lives lost, and when the simple act of waking each morning was a quiet act of defiance. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a world that feels both achingly familiar and impossibly strange. The year is 1348, and the Great Pestilence, as they call it, has crept into every corner of the land. It moves unseen, carried on the breath of merchants in the folds of cloth, on the backs of creatures too small to name. It has no face, no form, yet it reshapes everything. Villages left silent, fields abandoned, families torn apart. This is not a story of heroes or villains, of battles won or lost. It is a story of ordinary lives caught in an extraordinary moment, of people who rose each day to face the unknown, their hands calloused, their hearts heavy, their steps measured by necessity. It is a story of survival, of loss, and of the strange, stubborn persistence of life amid ruin. As you listen, let the sounds of your present fade, the hum of a distant car, the ticking of a clock, the rustle of the world beyond. Picture instead the creak of a wooden cart rolling over uneven stones, its wheels groaning under a weight you'd rather not name. Hear the faint toll of a church bell, its notes uneven as if the ringer's strength is waning. Smell the air, thick with the sharp bite of burning herbs, rosemary, thyme, lavender mingled with something heavier, something that lingers in the throat. This is the world we will walk through together. Step by careful step, you'll feel the mud beneath your boots. The weight of a course will cloak on your shoulders, the chill of a morning that carries both promise and dread. You'll stand in the shoes of a peasant, a merchant, a survivor, and perhaps even a soul who profited where others fell. Our journey will unfold in 4 parts, each a window into this shadowed time. First, we'll immerse ourselves in the daily life of a village gripped by the plague, where every task, every breath is a negotiation with fate. Then, we'll trace the path of the Black Death itself, following its relentless spread from distant shores to the heart of Europe, watching as it unraveled empires and birthed new beginnings. Next, we'll explore the strange and haunting ways people responded, flagellants marching in bloodied processions, communities torn by fear and blame, and the eerie figure of the plague doctor, his beaked mask a symbol of hope and futility. Finally, we'll step into the world of those who survived, from nobles fleeing to their manners to peasants who found new power in a world remade, where the old order crumbled and a fragile hope took root. This is not a tale to keep you on edge, but one to cradle you, to let your mind wander through the textures of a world long gone. The Black Death was a force that reshaped history, but it was also a moment of human endurance, of lives lived in the shadow of uncertainty. As we begin, let yourself sink into the story. Imagine the flicker of a tallow candle, its light dancing on rough-hewn walls. Feel the weight of a day that asks only that you listen, that you breathe, that you let the past carry you gently toward sleep. We begin now in a village where the morning is quiet, where the air is heavy, and where life, for one more day, persists. Imagine yourself waking to the faint creak of a wooden shutter, stirred by a breeze that carries the chill of early morning. The air is heavy, not just with the damp of a 14th century autumn, but with something else, a scent that clings to your senses, sharp and unsettling. It's the smell of burning herbs, rosemary and thyme thrown onto fires in a desperate bid to cleanse the air, mixed with the sour, lingering tang of decay. You are a peasant in a small village in Europe, perhaps in the rolling hills of England, the vineyards of France, or the stone-paved streets of Italy. The year is 1348, and the world you know is unraveling. The great pestilence, later called the Black Death, has crept into your village, silent and relentless, leaving behind a trail of empty homes and unanswered prayers. Today, like every day, is a test of endurance, a fragile dance between survival and surrender. You rise from a straw mattress, its coarse stuffing prickling through the thin linen cover. The room is small, its walls of wattle and door patched with crumbling mud, the floor packed earth that feels cool beneath your bare feet. A single tallow candle, burned low from the night before, casts a weak glow across the room, its light flickering against the rough-hewn beams overhead. You pull on a woolen tunic, its fibers worn and patched from years of use, and wrap a cloak around your shoulders. The fabric is heavy, smelling faintly of lanolin and smoke, a reminder of the sheep that once grazed the fields beyond the village. Those fields are quieter now, many left untended, their crops wilting under a sky that seems to watch with indifference. Step outside, and the village greets you with a stillness that feels unnatural. The main path, little more than a muddy track worn smooth by generations of feet, stretches before you. Once, it bustled with life children chasing hens, women carrying baskets of bread, men driving oxen to the fields. Now, it is nearly empty. A cart rumbles in the distance, its wheels grinding against the uneven ground. You know its purpose without looking. It carries the dead, piled high and wrapped in whatever cloth could be spared. The driver, his face half hidden behind a vinegar-soaked mask, keeps his eyes averted. No one speaks to him. No one wants to. The cart is a daily visitor, its arrival as predictable as the tolling of the church bell. Though the bell rings less often now, its ringer among the fallen. The air is thick, not just with the chill of morning, but with a weight that presses against your chest. Fires burn at the edges of the village, their smoke rising in thin, grey tendrils. Villagers heap herbs and rags into the flames, believing the smoke will drive away the sickness. The scent of lavender and sage mingles uneasily with the heavier notes of decay, a reminder of the bodies that lie unburied in homes or stacked in the overflowing churchyard. You pull your cloak tighter, as if it could shield you from the air itself. They say the pestilence travels in the wind, in the breath of the sick, in the very act of living. No one knows for certain, but the fear is as contagious as the disease. Your stomach rumbles, a dull ache that has become familiar. Food is scarce now. The fields, once golden with barley and rye, stand neglected. The men who worked them are dead or fled, their tools left to rust. The mill by the stream, where you once carried your grain to be ground, sits silent, its will stilled since the miller's death. You have a small sack of barley hidden beneath your bed, its weight a quiet comfort, but it won't last long. The market, once a place of chatter and barter, is a shadow of itself. A few figures huddle beneath makeshift stalls, their faces drawn, their hands clutching shriveled turnips or a handful of oats. No one lingers. To stand too close is to invite the sickness, and trust is as scarce as bread. You walk to the stream at the edge of the village, a wooden bucket in hand. The water is low, its surface clouded with silt, but it's all you have. Kneeling by the bank, you dip the bucket, watching the ripple spread. Upstream, a woman scrubs a cloth, her hands trembling as she works. The cloth is stained, dark with something you don't name. You don't ask questions. You don't need to. The sickness leaves its marked swollen glands at the neck or groin, racism, black lumps that fester and burst, fever that burns through the body in days, dark bruises blooming beneath the skin like grim flowers. Some die in hours, others linger for days, but few recover. You look away, focusing on the bucket, and carry it back to your home. The village feels smaller, its heart hollowed out. The blacksmith's forge is cold, the tavern silent. You pass a house where a family once lived, a mother, a father, 3 children. The door hangs open, the interior dark. No one has seen them in days. You quicken your pace, though there's nowhere safe to go. The roads beyond the village are treacherous, patrolled by men turned desperate by hunger and fear. Towns have sealed their gates, their walls guarded by men who shoot arrows at strangers. To flee is to risk starvation or worse accusations of witchcraft, of spreading the sickness deliberately. Survivors are suspect, their health a mystery that breeds suspicion. Back at your home, you set the bucket by the hearth and stir the embers, coaxing a weak flame. You have no bread, no meat, only a thin porridge made from barley and water. As it simmers, a knock at the door startles you. It's the barber surgeon, his face weathered, his hands stained from years of work. He carries a leather bag filled with tools, a knife, leeches, a vial of vinegar. He offers to bleed you, to draw out the bad humors he claims caused the sickness. You've seen others bled, their faces pale, their bodies no stronger for it. Whispers say the barber surgeons carry the pestilence on their blades, spreading it from one patient to the next. You shake your head, and he leaves without a word, his footsteps fading into the mud. The day stretches on, and you try to fill it with work. You mend a tear in your cloak, the needle slipping in your calloused fingers. The thread is coarse, the task slow, but it keeps your hands busy, your mind from wandering too far. You step outside to tend the small garden behind your house, pulling weeds from among the sparse herbs. The rosemary is tough, its scent sharp as you crush a leaf between your fingers. It's a small act of defiance, this tending, a claim on a future you can't quite believe in. The earth is soft, damp from recent rain, and the air carries the faint hum of insects, a sound that feels oddly normal in a world turned strange. Every task is interrupted by moments of dread. A cough from a passerby stops you cold, your breath held as you wait for another. A shadow at the window makes your heart lurch, though it's only a bird. Every ache in your body feels like a warning, a twinge in your shoulder, a heaviness in your limbs. Is it the sickness, or simply the weight of living? You don't know, and the not knowing is its own burden. You return to the hearth, stirring the porridge, its steam rising in faint wisps. You eat slowly, the warmth of the food a small comfort against the chill that seeps through the walls. The village is not entirely dead. Across the street, a woman tends her children, her face lined but her hands steady. A farmer drives his oxen past, their hooves sinking into the mud. Their stubborn persistence mirrors your own, though you don't speak of it. Words are few now, guarded like grain. The rhythm of life continues mending, tending, eating, but it's a fragile rhythm, broken by the absence of familiar faces. The tavern keeper, the weaver, the children who played by the stream, they're gone. Their place is empty. The church, once a place of solace, stands quiet, its priest buried in the yard he once tended. As noon approaches, the sun climbs higher, its light pale and thin. You sit by the hearth, the fire's warmth a faint reprieve from the damp chill of the room. The porridge is bland but filling, and you eat slowly, savoring the small comfort of a full stomach. The world outside feels distant, its sounds muffled by the walls. A door barks somewhere, sharp and sudden, but it's the only sound breaking the stillness. You wonder about the dog's master, if it has one, or if it, too, is a survivor wandering alone. The Black Death has taken so much, but it has not taken everything. The rhythm of your life, though altered, persists. You mend, you eat, you tend, you wait. The waiting is the hardest part, not for the cart, though its rumble haunts your days, but for the moment when the sickness might claim you. Every moment feels borrowed, every breath a small victory. Yet you carry on, because what else can you do? The stars will rise tonight, as they always have, and you will lie down on your straw mattress, hoping for another morning. This is the rhythm of a day during the Black Death, a cycle of small tasks, small fears, small hopes. You are not a hero, not a lord, just a person trying to live. And as the sun moves across the sky, you hold fast to the work of living, knowing it may be all you have. The afternoon sun hangs low in the sky, its light filtering through a haze of smoke and dust, casting long shadows across the village. You sit outside your small home, the rough wooden stool creaking beneath you, your hands idle for a moment as you watch the world move slowly around you. The air is still heavy, thick with the scent of burning herbs and the faint, ever-present undertone of decay. The village, once a place of familiar rhythms, laughter, arguments. The clatter of tools now hums with a quieter, more cautious pulse. The Black Death has reshaped everything, not just the faces you see, but the very texture of the day. You are a peasant in 1348, caught in a world where survival is a delicate balance, where every choice, every step, carries the weight of uncertainty. You rise from the stool, brushing dirt from your hands, and decide to walk toward the church at the village's edge. The path is familiar, worn smooth by years of footsteps, but it feels different now. The ruts are deeper, untended, and the grass at the edges grows wild, untrampled by the crowds that once gathered for market days or festivals. As you walk, you pass a house with its shutters tightly closed, the faint sound of a low moan seeping through the cracks. You don't stop. You've learned not to linger near the homes of the sick, though the instinct to help still tugs at you. It's not cruelty that keeps you moving, but necessity. To pause, to offer aid, is to risk joining the names whispered in prayers at night. The church comes into view, its stone walls weathered but solid, a constant in a world that feels anything but. Its bell tower looms above, though the bell has been silent since yesterday, its ringer now among the dead. The churchyard is a different story, once neat rows of graves. It's now a chaotic patchwork of freshly turned earth, mounds piled haphazardly. Some marked with crude wooden crosses, others with nothing at all. The ground is soft underfoot, sinking slightly as you step carefully between the graves. The smell here is stronger, a mix of damp soil and something heavier, something that makes you pull your cloak across your face. You've heard the priest before he fell speak of God's judgment, of the pestilence as punishment for sin. But standing here, surrounded by the silent earth, you wonder if God has turned away entirely. You pause by the church door, its wood splintered and worn. Inside, the air is cool and musty, the scent of old wax and incense lingering in the shadows. The pews are empty, save for a lone figure kneeling near the altar, their head bowed, their hands clasped tightly. You don't approach. Faith, once a shared rhythm of the village, has become a private act, tinged with desperation. You light a candle from the dwindling supply on the altar, its flame small but steady, and offer a silent prayer, not for salvation, but for endurance. The words feel hollow, but the act is comforting, a thread connecting you to the life you knew before. Leaving the church, you head toward the common field, where the village once shared the labor of planting and harvesting. The field is a ghost of itself now, its furrows uneven, its crops sparse. A few figures move among the rows, their backs bent, their movements slow. You recognize one, a woman named Agnes, whose husband died last month. She pulls weeds with a quiet determination, her hands moving as if guided by memory rather than hope. You join her for a moment, not speaking, just working side by side. The earth is cool and crumbly, yielding easily to your fingers. The task is simple, repetitive, and for a moment, it anchors you. The rhythm of pulling weeds, of brushing dirt from your hands, is a small rebellion against the chaos. But the moment is fleeting. A shout from the edge of the field breaks the silence, a man, his voice hoarse, calling for help. You hesitate, your hands still in the dirt. Agnes looks up, her eyes meeting yours, and in that glance, you both understand the risk. To help is to draw near, to breathe the same air, to touch what may carry death. You stand, wiping your hands on your tunic, and follow her cautiously toward the sound. The man is a farmer, one of the few still tending his land. He kneels beside his son, a boy no older than 10, who lies crumpled among the barley stalks. The boy's face is flushed, his breathing shallow, and you see the telltale signs, dark swellings at his neck, his skin hot to the touch. The farmer's eyes are wild, pleading. But there's nothing you can do. Agnes murmurs a prayer, her voice soft, and you step back, your heart heavy. You've seen this before, too many times. The boy will not see another dawn. You return to your home as the light begins to fade, the sky turning a soft grey, streaked with clouds. The village is quieter now, the day's small activities winding down. You pass a woman carrying a basket of herbs, her face hidden beneath a hood. She's one of the few who still gather plants from the woods, brewing teas and poultices in hopes of warding off the sickness. You've tried her remedies, a bitter tea of yarrow, a salve of crushed mint, but they do little to ease the fear. Still, you nod to her, a silent acknowledgement of her persistence, her refusal to surrender to despair. Inside your home, you stoke the fire, the embers glowing faintly. The bucket of water from the stream sits by the hearth, its surface still. You pour some into a clay pot, adding a handful of barley to make another thin porridge. The act is mechanical, familiar, but it grounds you. As the pot warms, you sit on the floor, your back against the wall, and let your eyes trace the cracks in the ceiling. The house is small, its walls bearing the marks of your life scratches from moving a bench, a stain from a spilled broth, a patch where you repaired a leak last spring. These are the traces of a life you've built, fragile but yours, and you cling to them now. The silence is broken by a knock at the door, soft but insistent. You open it to find a neighbor, a woman whose name you barely recall. Her face is pale, her eyes red from crying. She speaks in a whisper, asking if you've seen her brother, a man who worked the fields with you last season. You haven't, not in days, and you tell her so, your voice gentle but firm. She nods, her shoulders sagging, and turns away. You watch her disappear into the dusk, her figure small against the darkening sky. You wonder if her brother is alive, hiding, or already claimed by the cart. You wonder, too, if you'll see her again. Night falls and the village grows still. The air is cooler now, the smoke from the fires settling low, mingling with the mist that creeps in from the fields. You light a fresh tallow candle, its flame casting a warm glow across the room. The shadows dance, soft and slow, and you sit by the hearth, eating your porridge in small, careful bites. The taste is bland, but it's warm, and that's enough. Outside, a dog howls, its cry sharp and lonely. You listen, waiting for it to fade, and when it does, the silence feels heavier. You think of the day behind you, the cart, the churchyard, the boy in the field. Each moment is a thread in the tapestry of your life, woven with care and fear and stubborn endurance. The Black Death has taken so much, but it has not taken you, not yet. You wonder why, though you know there's no answer. Some say it's God's will, others chance, others still a curse. You don't know what to believe, only that you wake each morning, that you carry water, that you mend and tend and eat. These are the rhythms of your life, fragile but unbroken, and they carry you forward. As you lie down on your straw mattress, the candle burning low, you listen to the night. The wind rattles the shutters, a faint hum of insects drifts through the air, and somewhere, far off, a bell tolls once, then falls silent. You close your eyes, letting the world fade. The cart may come tomorrow, or it may not. The sickness may find you, or it may pass you by. For now, you rest, carried by the quiet rhythm of a life that persists one breath at a time. This is what it means to live during the Black Death, not to fight or flee, but to endure, to move through each day with the weight of uncertainty. You are not a hero, not a scholar, just a person in a village, holding fast to the small acts that keep you alive. And as the night deepens, you drift, the past folding gently around you, a story told in whispers, leading you towards sleep. As the night deepens around you, imagine the world stretching far beyond the confines of your small village, its muddy paths and silent homes fading into a broader tapestry. Picture a vast landscape of ports and cities, trade routes winding like threads across seas and mountains, connecting distant lands in a web of commerce and culture. It is the year 1347, and this web, vibrant with the exchange of goods and ideas, is about to carry something else, something unseen, something deadly. The Black Death, a shadow creeping across continents, begins its journey not in the fields of Europe, but in the far reaches of the East, where the air is thick with dust and the clamor of war. Let your mind drift, carried by the gentle rhythm of this story, as we trace the path of the plague, from its origins to its relentless spread, and witness how it reshaped a world that thought itself eternal. The story begins in the Crimea, a rugged peninsula jutting into the Black Sea, where the port city of Kaffa sits like a jewel in a crown of trade. Kaffa is a generous outpost, its docks alive with the creak of ships and the shouts of merchants unloading silks, spices, and grain. The air smells of salt and tar, with a faint sweetness from barrels of wine stacked along the wharves. It's a place where East meets West, where Mongol traders barter with Italian sailors, their voices mingling in a dozen tongues. But in 1347, Kaffa is under siege. The Mongol army, led by Konjanib, surrounds the city, their tents dotting the hills like a dark tide. The siege is brutal, but it's not the swords or arrows that will make history. Within the Mongol camp, a sickness stirs unnoticed, at first a fever, a cough, dark swellings that mark the skin. The soldiers fall, their bodies piling up, and the Khan, desperate to break Kaffa's walls, makes a grim decision. Corpses heavy with disease are catapulted over the city's defenses, landing among the Genos with a weight that carries more than death. The people of Kaffa don't understand what's happening, not yet. They see the bodies, smell the decay, and pray it's only the cruelty of war. But the sickness takes root, slipping into the crowded streets, the cramped ships, the very breath of those who flee. The Genos, desperate to escape, board their galleys, their oars cutting through the waves as they sail west. They carry goods, cloth, spices, jewels, but they also carry the plague, nestled in the fleas that cling to rats scurrying in the holds. The ships sail for Messina, a bustling port in Sicily, where the Mediterranean sparkles under an autumn sun. When they arrive, the docks are busy, the air alive with the clatter of barrels and the chatter of merchants. But within days, the mood shifts. Dock workers fall ill, their faces flushed, their bodies marked with dark lumps. The townsfolk whisper of a curse, of poisoned air, of divine wrath. The ships are driven out, their sails disappearing over the horizon. But it's too late. The plague has landed. From Messina, the sickness spreads like ripples on a pond. It moves north to the ports of Genoa and Venice, where grand palaces line the canals and markets brim with goods from across the known world. Imagine standing on a Venetian dock, the water lapping gently against stone, the air heavy with the scent of fish and wet wood. The city is a marvel, its churches gleaming with gold, its streets alive with the hum of trade. But in late 1347, a shadow falls. Sailors stumble ashore, their bodies racked with fever. Merchants who days ago haggled over bolts of silk now lie in their beds, their skin darkening with the plague's grim signature. The Venetians, proud and pragmatic, try to act. They burn the clothes of the sick, seal ships in the harbor, pray in their grand cathedrals. But the plague is relentless, slipping through the cracks of their defenses, carried by fleas, by touch, by the very air they breathe. By 1348, the plague reaches mainland Europe, its path traced by the trade routes that once brought prosperity. It moves through Italy, climbing the hills of Tuscany where olive groves shimmer under the sun. Florence, a city of art and wealth, is struck hard. Imagine walking its streets, the cobblestones worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, the air rich with the scent of bread and leather. But now the markets are quiet, the workshops empty. The great cathedral, its dome half-built, stands as a silent witness to the city's collapse. Families lock themselves in their homes, burning herbs to ward off the miasma, the bad air they believe carries the sickness. Priests lead processions, their chants rising above the tolling bells. But the bells grow fewer as the ringers fall. The dead are carried out at night, their bodies wrapped in cloth, their names added to a growing list of the lost. The plague does not stop in Italy. It follows the roads north to France, where the fields of Provence are golden with wheat, but the villages are emptying. Marseille, a port city, is one of the first to fall, its docks silent as ships refuse to land. The sickness creeps inland to Avignon, where the Pope resides in a grand palace surrounded by cardinals and scribes. The air in Avignon is thick with incense, the streets lined with fires meant to purify the air. Pope Clement VI, a man of learning and faith, tries to lead. He orders prayers, issues decrees, even sits between two great fires, believing the heat will protect him. But the plague spares no one priest or peasant, noble or beggar. The papal court, once a place of debate and diplomacy, becomes a house of mourning, its halls echoing with the footsteps of the few who remain. In the countryside, the plague moves more slowly, but no less relentlessly. Imagine a village in southern France, its stone houses clustered around a small church, its fields stretching toward the horizon. The air smells of hay and earth, but the fields are untended, the plows abandoned. The villagers who once gathered to share news and laughter now avoid each other, their eyes wary. A family locks themselves in their home, hoping isolation will save them. But the sickness finds a way through a visitor, a flea, a moment of carelessness. The churchyard fills, the priest falls, and the village grows silent. The rhythm of life planting, harvesting, praying is broken, replaced by a new rhythm, the creak of the death cart, the toll of a bell, the low murmur of prayers. By the time the plague reaches Paris, the city is a shadow of itself. The Seine flows quietly, its waters reflecting a sky that seems to comfort the chaos below. The streets, once crowded with students, merchants, and nobles, are now lined with the sick and the dead. The king, Philip VI, issues orders: burn the bodies, clean the streets, pray for deliverance, but his voice carries little weight. The university, a beacon of learning, closes its doors, its scholars fleeing or falling. The markets, once vibrant with the scent of spices and the clatter of coins, stand empty. The city's heartbeat slows, its people caught in a cycle of fear and loss. The plague's journey is not just a path of death, but a story of human failure and resilience. Local authorities, from mayors to lords, try to act. In some towns, they seal the gates, turning away strangers. In others, they burn the possessions of the sick, hoping to stop the spread. But their efforts are like whispers against a storm. The plague moves faster than their decrees, carried by the very systems trade, travel, trust that once held Europe together. The Genoese merchants who sailed from Kaffa did not know they carried death. The Mongol siege, with its grim tactic of weaponized corpses, was not meant to unleash a pandemic. Yet these actions, small in the moment, ripple outward, reshaping the world. As the plague spreads, it leaves behind not just bodies but questions. Why does it strike some and spare others? Why do entire towns vanish while a few survive? The people of 1348 have no answers, only theories: bad air, divine punishment, the alignment of planets. They burn herbs, wear amulets, pray until their voices grow hoarse. Some turn to blame, pointing fingers at outsiders, at neighbors, at God. Others turn inward, locking their doors, hoping silence will protect them. But the plague is indifferent, moving through cities and villages, palaces and hovels with a quiet, relentless purpose. This is the world of the Black Death, a world where the rhythms of life are disrupted, where the familiar becomes strange, where every day is in negotiation with fate. As you listen, let the story carry you, not with urgency, but with the slow, steady pull of a tide. Imagine the creak of a ship's timbers, the rustle of a merchant's cloak, the faint toll of a bell in a distant city. The plague is a shadow, but it is also a mirror, reflecting the fragility and persistence of those who lived through it. And as we move toward the second part of this segment, we'll see how this shadow reshapes Europe, breaking old systems and planting the seeds of a new world. As the evening settles around you, imagine the world of 1348 stretching out like a vast shadow tapestry, its threads fraying under the weight of the Black Death. The plague, having crept from the ports of Crimea to the bustling cities of Italy and France, now tightens its grip on Europe, its presence felt in every corner of the continent. The air carries the faint scent of burning herbs, the distant toll of bells, the low hum of prayers whispered in candlelit rooms. This is not just a story of death, but of a world unraveling its systems, its beliefs, its very foundations shaken by a force no one can see. Let your mind drift, carried by the gentle rhythm of this narrative, as we explore how the plague reshaped Europe, tearing down old structures and sowing the seeds of a new era. The plague's journey continues northward, crossing the Alps into the German states, where towns huddle along rivers and forests stretch toward the horizon. Imagine a market square in Nuremberg, its cobblestones slick with rain, its stalls half empty. The air smells of wet wool and wood smoke, but the usual clamor of barter is gone. Merchants once eager to trade furs and iron now stand apart, their faces masked with cloth, their eyes wary. The plague arrived here on the backs of travelers in the holds of river barges, and it has taken root with terrifying speed. Entire families vanished, their homes left dark, their possessions burned in great pyres that light the night. The town's leaders, clad in heavy robes, issue decrees, close the gates, quarantine the sick, pray for mercy, but their words are like whispers against a storm. The church bells, once a call to worship, now mark the passing of lives. Their tolling irregular as ringers fall one by one. In England, the plague lands with a quiet ferocity. Carried across the channel to the port of Bristol in the summer of 1348. Picture the docks, the air thick with the scent of salt and fish. The creak of ships swaying at anchor. Sailors unload their cargo, unaware that among the barrels and bales, death has stowed away. Within weeks, Bristol is a city of ghosts. The streets, once alive with the chatter of fishmongers and the clatter of carts, grow silent. The marketplace, where women once haggled over bread and cloth, is abandoned. Its stalls covered in dust. The plague moves inland, following the roads to London, where the Thames flows sluggishly under a grey sky. The city, a hub of trade and power, is unprepared. The king, Edward III, flees to the countryside, leaving his officials to grapple with a crisis they cannot control. The streets fill with the dead, carried out at night to avoid panic, their bodies piled in pits outside the city walls. The plague's impact is not just in the bodies it claims, but in the systems it breaks. Feudalism, the backbone of Europe's social order, begins to crack. Imagine a manor in the English countryside, its stone walls surrounded by fields of barley and rye. The lord, once a figure of authority, is either dead or fled, his hall empty save for a few trembling servants. The serfs, bound to the land by law and tradition, are decimated. Those who survive find their labor suddenly valuable, for there are too few hands to till the fields. The rhythm of planting and harvesting, once as steady as the seasons, falters. Crops rot in the fields, granaries stand empty, and the price of bread soars. The manor, once a symbol of order, becomes a relic, its power slipping away as the world shifts beneath it. In the cities, the loss is even more stark. Guilds, the associations of craftsmen that shaped urban life, collapse as their members die. Imagine a workshop in Florence, its air heavy with the scent of leather and dye. The weaver who once worked the loom lies dead, his tools untouched. The apprentice who dreamed of taking his place is gone, his dreams buried with him. The guild hall, where craftsmen once gathered to set prices and share knowledge, stands silent. The economy, built on the steady hum of trade and labor, grinds to a halt. Markets empty, ships remain in harbor, and the flow of good spices from the east, wool from England, wine from France slows to a trickle. The plague does not just kill people, it kills the rhythms that sustained them. Yet amid the ruin, there are those who thrive. Opportunists, quick to see the gaps left by death, step into the void. Picture a merchant in Venice, his robes finer than most, his house overlooking a quiet canal. While others burn their goods to stop the plague spread, he buys up land and property at a fraction of its worth. Widows, desperate for coin, sell their husbands' fields. Orphans, left with no one to guide them, part with their inheritance. The merchant's coffers grow, his influence spreading as the old order crumbles. In the countryside, some peasants inherit land unexpectedly, their relatives gone, their obligations to lords weakened. A farmer who once toiled for a noble now works his own plot. His hands calloused, but his future his own. The plague, in its cruelty, creates opportunities for those who survive, though the cost is steep. The church, too, feels the plague's weight. Imagine a cathedral in Paris, its stained glass glowing softly in the evening light, its pews half empty. The priests who once guided the faithful are among the hardest hit, for they minister to the sick. Hearing confessions and offering last rites, Their deaths leave parishes without leaders, churches without voices. The Pope in Avignon, surrounded by his court, tries to hold the church together, issuing indulgences and calling for repentance. But the people, battered by loss, begin to question, why does God allow such suffering? Why do the pious die while the wicked survive? New voices rise, preachers who speak of reform, mystics who claim visions, doubters who whisper in the shadows. The church, once an unyielding pillar, begins to waver, its authority fraying like an old tapestry. The plague also reshapes thought itself. In universities, scholars debate the cause of the sickness. Some point to the stars, claiming a conjunction of planets has poisoned the air. Others speak of miasma, a foul vapor rising from the earth. Doctors, trained in ancient texts, prescribe remedies, bleeding, herbs, prayers, but none work. Imagine a lecture hall in Bologna, its benches half-filled, the air heavy with the scent of ink and parchment. A scholar, his face gaunt, reads from Galen, but his words falter. The old knowledge, once revered, seems powerless against the plague's march. Yet from this failure, new ideas are born. Survivors begin to question, to observe, to seek answers beyond the texts. The seeds of modern medicine, though distant, are planted in this moment of crisis as the world learns to look anew at the body and its ailments. The plague's reach extends beyond the physical, touching the soul of Europe. Art, once vibrant with images of saints and kings, turns darker. Imagine a painter in Siena, his workshop lit by a single candle, his brush tracing the outline of a skeletal figure. The dance of death, a motif born in these years, begins to appear, skeletons leading kings and peasants alike in a grim procession. The image is a reminder, death spares no one, neither the rich nor the poor, the holy nor the sinful. Yet it is also a strange comfort, a way to make sense of a world where order has collapsed. The paintings, the poems, the stories that emerge from the plague years carry a new weight, a reflection of a society staring into its own fragility. The plague's legacy is not just destruction, but transformation. Feudalism, weakened by the loss of labor, begins to give way to new social structures. Peasants, once bound to the land, demand wages, move to cities, claim freedoms they never knew. The church, its authority shaken, faces calls for reform that will echo for centuries. Universities, humbled by their failure to cure, begin to rethink their methods, laying the groundwork for the Renaissance. The plague is a fire, burning away the old, leaving space for the new. It is a grim paradox. A catastrophe that kills millions also births a world where power shifts, where ideas stir, where the survivors find themselves in a landscape both broken and strangely open. As you listen, let the weight of this story settle around you. Picture the empty streets of London, the silent docks of Venice, the untended fields of France. Hear the faint toll of a bell, the crackle of a fire, the soft murmur of a prayer. The Black Death is a shadow, but it is also a turning point, a moment when the world paused, then began again. Let your mind drift, carried by the rhythm of this tale as we prepare to step into the strange and haunting responses to the plague flagellants, pogroms, and the eerie figure of the plague doctor. In the next segment of our journey, as the night wraps around you, soft and quiet, let your mind drift back to the shadowed world of 1348, where Europe trembles under the weight of the Black Death. The plague has swept through ports and cities, villages and manors, leaving behind a landscape of loss and fear. But it has also birthed something else strange. Desperate responses from a people grasping for meaning in a world turned upside down. Imagine the flicker of torchlight on a cobblestone street, the low chant of voices rising in the dark, the faint smell of smoke and blood. This is not a tale of battles or heroes, but of the curious, haunting ways humans faced the unknown through rituals of pain, acts of blame, and fleeting hopes of salvation. Settle in. Let the rhythm of this story carry you as we explore the flagellants, the pogroms, and the eerie practices that emerged in the plague's shadow. Picture a road winding through the German countryside, its edges lined with wild grasses swaying in the evening breeze. The air is cool, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant fires. A procession moves slowly along the path, their figures shrouded in rough, grey robes, their heads bowed. These are the flagellants, men and women who have taken to the roads, driven by a belief that the plague is God's punishment for humanity's sins. Their chant is low and rhythmic, a mournful hum that rises and falls like a tide. In their hands, they carry whips, leather strips studded with iron spikes, designed to tear the flesh. As they walk, they lash themselves, their backs red and raw, their pain a public offering to appease a wrathful deity. The sound of the whips is sharp, a crack against the stillness, but their faces are calm, almost serene, as if the act of suffering brings them closer to salvation. The flagellants are not a small group, nor are they confined to one place. Across Europe, from the Low Countries to the Rhine Valley, they form bands, sometimes hundreds strong, marching from town to town. Imagine standing at the edge of a village square, the air thick with the scent of burning herbs. As a group of flagellants enters, their robes are stained with sweat and blood, their feet bare and caked with mud. They kneel in the center of the square, their chants growing louder, their whips rising and falling in a grim rhythm. The villagers watch, some joining in prayer, others turning away, unsure whether to see holiness or madness. The flagellants believe their suffering will cleanse the world, that their blood will wash away the sins that brought the plague. They march for 33 days, one for each year of Christ's life, fasting, praying, and whipping themselves into a state of exhaustion. Their presence is both awe-inspiring and unsettling, a reminder of the desperation that grips the land. But the flagellants are not welcomed everywhere. In some towns, they are seen as harbingers of the plague, their bloodied processions spreading fear as much as faith. Church authorities, uneasy with their fervor, begin to question their motives. The Pope in Avignon, Clement VI, issues decrees condemning their movement, calling it heretical. But the flagellants persist, their chants echoing through the night. They are a fleeting phenomenon, their numbers dwindling as the plague continues. But their memory lingers, a testament to the lengths people will go to find meaning in chaos. As you imagine their procession, their voices fading into the distance, let the rhythm of their steps lull you, a strange, somber melody in a world of uncertainty. The plague's shadow also breeds darker reactions. In the cities and towns of Europe, fear turns to blame, and blame finds a target in the Jewish communities scattered across the continent. Picture a street in Strasbourg, its houses tall and timbered, their windows shuttered against the night. The air smells of smoke and fear, the streets quiet save for the murmur of angry voices. Rumors have spread, whispered in taverns, preached in churches, that the Jews are poisoning wells, spreading the plague to destroy Christendom. The accusation is baseless, born of panic and prejudice, but it takes root with terrifying speed. The plague spares no one, yet the human need to find a cause, a culprit, is relentless. In February 1349, Strasbourg becomes a scene of horror. Imagine standing at the edge of the city, the air heavy with the scent of burning wood. A mob gathers, their torches casting flickering shadows on the cobblestones. They march toward the Jewish quarter, their voices rising in a chant of accusation. The town's leaders, under pressure, allow the violence to unfold. Over 1,000 Jews are rounded up, herded into a wooden structure and burned alive. The flames light the night, the smoke rising thick and black, carrying with it the weight of lives lost to fear. Similar scenes play out across Europe, in Basel, in Freiburg, in Mainz. Entire communities are wiped out, their homes looted, their synagogues destroyed. The pogroms are not just acts of violence, but a grim reflection of a society seeking answers in the wrong places, turning on its own in a desperate bid for control. Yet not all responses are so destructive. In Venice, a city of canals and commerce, a different approach emerges, one born of pragmatism rather than panic. Imagine walking along a Venetian quay, the water lapping gently against stone, the air rich with the scent of salt and tar. The city, a hub of trade, is one of the first to feel the plague's wrath. Its crowded streets a perfect breeding ground for the sickness. But Venice is also a city of innovation, its leaders quick to adapt. They introduce a system of quarantine, a word derived from the Italian 40 giorni, 40 days. Ships arriving at the port are forced to anchor offshore, their crews and cargo isolated for 40 days to ensure no sickness comes ashore. The practice is not perfect, but it is a step toward understanding, a recognition that the plague moves through contact, not just divine will. On land, Venice creates lazaret as isolated hospitals on small islands in the lagoon. Picture a boat gliding through the misty waters, its oars dipping silently, carrying the sick to these places of quarantine. The lazarettes are simple, their walls of wood and stone, their air heavy with the scent of vinegar and herbs. Doctors and attendants, their faces masked, move among the patients, offering what care they can. The sick lie on straw pallets, their breaths shallow, their bodies marked by the plague's dark signs. Some recover, though they are few, most do not. The lazarettes are a grim necessity, a way to separate the sick from the healthy. But they also carry a quiet hope, a belief that order can be imposed on chaos. Other cities follow Venice's lead, though their methods vary. In Milan, the authorities take a harsher approach, sealing the houses of the sick, sometimes with the living still inside. Imagine a street in Milan, its houses tall and close, their doors marked with crosses to warn of the plague within. The air is still, the silence broken only by the faint cries of those trapped behind the walls. In Florence, the city burns the clothes and bedding of the sick, the fires glowing through the night, their smoke mingling with the ever-present haze of burning herbs. In smaller towns, bells are rung to signal the approach of the death cart, a warning to stay indoors to avoid the bodies being carried to mass graves. These measures, born of desperation, are the first steps toward a new understanding of disease, though the people of 1348 cannot yet see it. The plague also gives rise to one of its most enduring images, the plague doctor, with his beaked mask and long robe. But this figure, so iconic in later centuries, is less common than legend suggests. Imagine a narrow street in a French town, the air thick with the scent of smoke and decay. A figure moves through the shadows, his cloak dark, his face hidden behind a mask shaped like a bird's beak, stuffed with herbs to fill to the air. His eyes peer through glass lenses, his hands gloved to avoid touch. This is the plague doctor, a figure both feared and revered, tasked with treating the sick when all others have fled. But in 1348, such costumes are rare, their design still evolving. The beaked mask, often attributed to the plague years, is largely a creation of later centuries, a myth woven from the chaos of the time. The real doctors of the Black Death are simpler figures, barber surgeons, apothecaries, or priests, armed with little more than leeches, prayers, and hope. These doctors work in a world of strange beliefs. The prevailing theory is miasma, bad air that carries the plague. Imagine a physician in Paris, his robes stained with sweat, standing in a room thick with the scent of burning rosemary. He holds a pomander, a ball of herbs and spices, to his nose, believing it will protect him. He bleeds his patients, cuts their veins to release the bad humors, or applies poultices of crushed herbs to their swollen glands. Some speak of planetary alignments, of Jupiter and Saturn casting a malign influence over the earth. Others see the plague as divine punishment, urging repentance over medicine. These theories, though flawed, are the best the age can offer, a desperate attempt to make sense of the senseless. As you listen, let the strangeness of these responses settle around you. Picture the flagellants' slow march, their whips cutting the air. Hear the crackle of fires in Strasbourg, the low chant of prayers in Venice. See the plague doctor, his shadow moving through a darkened street. These are the echoes of a world in crisis, a people reaching for answers in a time of darkness. Let the rhythm of this tale carry you, gentle and unhurried, as we prepare to explore more of these curious practices and their lasting impact in the next part of our journey. As the night deepens, let your mind linger in the shadowed world of 14th century Europe, where the Black Death weaves its grim thread through every village, city, and soul. The air is heavy with the scent of burning herbs, the faint toll of bells, and the low murmur of fear that never quite fades. In this segment, we continue to explore the strange and haunting ways people responded to the plague, not with solutions, but with rituals, beliefs, and acts born of desperation and hope. Picture the flicker of torchlight on a cobblestone street, the rhythmic chant of a procession, the quiet clink of a physician's tools. These are the echoes of a world grappling with the unknown, seeking meaning in a time of chaos. Settle in. Let the gentle rhythm of this narrative carry you, as we delve deeper into the curious practices, the myths, and the cultural shifts that define the plague years. The flagellants, with their bloodied robes and relentless marches, are only one piece of this tapestry. Their processions, though striking, are but a symptom of a broader need to act, to do something in the face of relentless death. Imagine a town square in Cologne, its stones worn smooth by centuries of footsteps, now dusted with ash from nearby fires. The air smells of smoke and damp wool, the sky a heavy grey that seems to press down on the gathered crowd. The flagellants have passed through, their chants still lingering in memory. But the townsfolk are left with their own rituals, their own ways of coping. Some turn to prayer lines, gathering in circles around churches, their hands linked as they recite psalms. The words are familiar, comforting, their cadence a steady pulse against the chaos. Others burn bonfires, piling them high with herbs and old cloth, believing the smoke will purify the air. The flames crackle softly, their light casting long shadows, a fleeting warmth in a world grown cold. These rituals are not just acts of faith, but attempts to impose order on a world that feels lawless. In many towns, the church becomes a focal point, its doors open day and night to those seeking solace. Imagine stepping inside a small church in a Bavarian village, its walls cool and damp, the air thick with the scent of wax and incense. The pews are sparsely filled, the congregation a mix of the devout and the desperate. A woman kneels at the altar, her fingers tracing the beads of a rosary, her lips moving in silent prayer. A man stands at the back, his eyes fixed on a stained glass window, its colors muted by the dim light. The priest, if one remains, speaks of repentance of God's will, but his voice is tired, his words worn thin by repetition. The ritual's prayers, candles. Offerings are a thread connecting the living to the life they knew before, a fragile anchor in a sea of loss. But not all responses are so peaceful. The plague's terror breeds blame, and in many places that blame turns deadly. The pogroms against Jewish communities, which we touched on earlier, are a dark stain on this era, driven by fear and falsehoods. Imagine a market town in southern France, its streets narrow and winding, its houses leaning close. The air carries the scent of bread and leather, but also the sharp tang of fear. Rumors spread like wildfire whispers that the Jews have poisoned the wells, that they conspire with unseen forces to bring the plague. These lies find fertile ground in a society desperate for answers. In Toulouse in 1348, a mob gathers, their voices rising in anger. They storm the Jewish quarter, their torches casting flickering light on the walls. Homes are burned, families torn apart. Lives extinguished in a wave of violence that leaves only ashes and silence. The pogroms are not isolated, they ripple across Europe from Spain to the Rhineland, a grim testament to the human need to find a scapegoat when the true enemy is invisible. Yet even in this darkness, there are glimmers of reason, attempts to understand the plague through observation rather than superstition. In the city of Ragusa, on the Dalmatian coast, officials take a bold step. Imagine a port where ships bob gently in the harbor, their sails furled, their crews weary from long journeys. The air smells of salt and pine, the docks quiet save for the creak of wood and the call of gulls. In 1377, long after the first wave of the plague, Ragusa establishes one of the earliest formal quarantines, requiring travelers to remain isolated for 40 days before entering the city. But even in 1348, the seeds of this idea are sown. Town leaders, watching the plague spread, begin to notice patterns. Sickness follows ships, markets, crowds. They don't understand the role of fleas or rats, but they see that contact spreads death. In Ragusa, they begin isolating the sick, moving them to makeshift hospitals outside the city walls. The buildings are simple, their roofs thatched, their air heavy with the scent of vinegar and herbs. The effort is imperfect, but it marks a shift, a move toward controlling the plague through action, not just prayer. The medical theories of the time, though flawed, are another attempt to grapple with the unknown. Imagine a physician's study in Florence, its shelves lined with scrolls and jars of dried herbs, the air thick with the scent of ink and wax. The physician, his robes worn and stained, pores over texts by Galen and Hippocrates, seeking answers in ancient wisdom. He believes in miasma, the idea that bad air carries the plague. To counter it, he burns rosemary and juniper, filling his room with a sharp, clean scent. He advises his patients to carry pomanders, small balls of wax filled with spices, or to sleep with windows closed to keep out the poisoned air. Some physicians speak of astrology, pointing to the conjunction of Jupiter, Saturn, and Mars as the plague's cause. Others see divine punishment, urging their patients to confess their sins. These ideas, though rooted in the knowledge of the time, are like candles in a storm flickering, fragile, unable to illuminate the truth. The plague doctor, with his iconic beaked mask, is a figure that looms large in our imagination, but his reality is more complex. In 1348, such costumes are not yet common. They will emerge more fully in later plague outbreaks. Instead, imagine a physician in a small French town, his cloak heavy with the scent of herbs, his face covered with a simple cloth mask soaked in vinegar. He carries a wooden cane to prod his patients, avoiding touch, and a satchel of tools, leeches, knives, vials of oil. His work is grueling, his success rare. He visits homes where entire families lie, sick, their bodies marked by dark swellings, their breaths shallow. He applies poultices, bleeds veins, offers prayers, but most of his patients slip away. The physician himself is at risk. His mask little protection against the fleas that carry the plague. Many die, their names forgotten, their efforts a quiet act of courage in a world of fear. In some places, communities turn to older, stranger remedies. Imagine a village in the English countryside, its houses clustered around a green, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth. The villagers, desperate for relief, revive ancient practices. They slaughter livestock, believing the plague lives in animals, and burn the carcasses in great pyres that light the night. Others wear amulets, small bags of herbs or stones etched with symbols around their necks, hoping for protection. In one town, a group buries a live rooster at a crossroads, believing it will draw the plague into the earth. These acts, rooted in folklore, are a mix of hope and desperation, a way to feel control in a world that offers none. The plague also sparks cultural shifts that linger long after the bodies are buried. In churches, sermons take on a new urgency, preaching the end of days. Imagine a cathedral in Siena, its walls adorned with frescoes, its air cool and still. The priest, his voice hoarse, speaks of the apocalypse, urging the congregation to repent before it's too late. His words resonate, for the world outside feels like the end. Empty streets, silent markets, graves overflowing. Yet this fear also births new expressions of faith. Confraternities, lay groups dedicated to charity, emerge in greater numbers. Their members tending the sick, burying the dead, offering what comfort they can. Their work is quiet, uncelebrated, but it weaves a thread of compassion through the chaos. Art, too, begins to change. Imagine a painter's workshop in Bruges, its air heavy with the scent of linseed oil and pigment. The artist, once known for images of saints and virgins, now sketches scenes of death, a skeletal figure leading a procession, a reminder that no one escapes the grave. These images, later called the Danse Macabre, are not yet widespread, but their roots lie in the plague years, a reflection of a society staring into its own mortality. The art is somber, but it is also a way to process grief, to find meaning in loss. The paintings, like the flagellant's chants or the quarantine's rules, are a human response to an inhuman force, a way to reclaim a piece of the world. As you listen, let these images settle around you: the flagellant's slow march, the fires of the pogroms, the quiet boats carrying the sick to isolation. Hear the low chant of prayers, the crackle of bonfires, the faint clink of a physician's tools. The Black Death is a storm, but it is also a mirror reflecting the fears, hopes, and resilience of those who lived through it. Let the rhythm of this tale carry you, gentle and unhurried, as we prepare to step into the world of the survivors, the lords, the rich, and the rebuilders in the final segment of our journey. The night is deep now, its quiet wrapping around you like a soft cloak. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a 14th century world where the Black Death has left its mark not just in the silent villages and empty streets, but in the very fabric of society. The air carries the faint scent of wood smoke, the distant lowing of cattle, the rustle of leaves in a breeze that feels both ancient and new. The plague has taken millions, but it has also left behind survivors, peasants, nobles, merchants, and dreamers who find themselves in a landscape transformed. This is not a tale of triumph, but of quiet resilience, of lives reshaped by loss and opportunity. Let your mind drift, carried by the gentle rhythm of this story as we step into the world of those who survived, from the lords who fled to the peasants who rose, and explore how a shattered Europe began to rebuild. Picture a manor house in the English countryside, its stone walls weathered by rain, its windows glowing faintly with candlelight. The lord who owns this manor, once a figure of unquestioned authority, is gone, perhaps dead, perhaps fled to a distant estate, hoping to outrun the plague. The air inside the manor is heavy, smelling of old wood and wax. The room's silent save for the creak of a floorboard under a servant's cautious step. The lord's absence is felt not just here, but in the fields beyond, where serfs once toiled under his command. The fields are quieter now, many left untended, their crops wilting under a pale autumn sun. The serfs, bound to the land by law and tradition, were among the hardest hit by the plague. Entire families vanished, their small huts empty, their tools abandoned. But those who remain hardy, stubborn, or simply lucky find themselves in a world where the old rules no longer hold. Imagine you are one of these survivors, a peasant named Thomas, standing in a field that once belonged to your lord. Your hands are calloused, your tunic patched, but your eyes are sharp, scanning the horizon. The plague took your brother, your mother, your neighbor, but it spared you. The field before you, once worked by dozens, is now yours to tend or to claim. The Lord's steward, a gaunt man with a ledger, still demands your labor, but his voice lacks its former weight. There are too few workers now, and the fields cannot be harvested without you. You hear whispers from other villages, peasants demanding wages, refusing to work unless paid in coin or grain. It's a bold act, one that would have been unthinkable a year ago when the Lord's word was law. But the plague has shifted the balance, and you feel it. A quiet power in your hands as you grip the handle of your plow. This shift is not just in the fields, but in the towns and cities, where the labor shortage reshapes life. Picture a market square in Bruges, its cobblestones worn smooth, its air rich with the scent of wool and ale. The market, once bustling with craftsmen and traders, is quieter now, its stalls half empty. The weavers, the blacksmiths, the bakers, many are gone, their workshops dark. But for those who survive, there is opportunity. A young apprentice, now the master of his trade by default, takes up his mentor's tools. A woman, widowed by the plague, inherits her husband's shop and learns to barter with merchants. The guildhalls, once rigid in their rules, loosen their grip, admitting new members to fill the gaps. Wages rise, not out of kindness but necessity. A laborer who once worked for bread now demands silver, and the merchants, desperate for goods, pay it. The nobles, too, feel the change, though many resisted. Imagine a castle in northern France, its towers rising against a clouded sky, its halls echoing with the footsteps of a diminished household. The lord, a man of wealth and lineage, fled to this castle when the plague reached his city, bringing his family and a few loyal servants. He sealed the gates, hoping to keep the sickness at bay, but the plague followed, claiming his eldest son and half his retinue. Now, he sits in a cold hall, his table sparse, his authority weakened. The serfs who once worked his lands are fewer, and those who remain demand payment. His steward reports that some have fled to the cities, lured by tales of work and freedom. The Lord's wealth, once measured in land and loyalty, feels fragile, his power slipping like sand through his fingers. Yet not all nobles suffer. Some, quick to adapt, thrive in the chaos. Picture a wealthy merchant in Florence, his house a grand affair of stone and glass, its rooms filled with tapestries and silver. While others burned their goods to stop the plague, he bought land at a fraction of its worth, snapping up fields and houses from desperate widows and orphans. His coffers grow, his influence spreading as the old noble families falter. He is not alone. Across Europe, merchants and minor lords seized the moment, inheriting titles, lands, and power from those who fell. The plague, in its cruelty, creates a new class of wealthy survivors, men and women who see opportunity where others see ruin. In the cities, this shift is even more pronounced. Imagine walking the streets of London, the Thames flowing quietly below, its waters reflecting a sky streaked with clouds. The city is a shadow of itself, its population halved, its streets lined with empty houses. But for those who remain, there is space to move, to breathe, to build. A young man, once a serf, arrives in the city, his hands empty, but his mind sharp. The plague took his family, but it also freed him from the land. He finds work as a laborer, building walls for a merchant's new home. The pay is good, better than he ever dreamed, and with it, he buys a small plot, a stake in a world that once offered him nothing. The cities, once rigid in their hierarchies, begin to open, their gates welcoming those who can work, who can rebuild. The church, too, faces a reckoning. Imagine a monastery in the hills of Tuscany, its cloisters quiet, its gardens overgrown. The monks who once prayed and worked in harmony are fewer now, their numbers decimated by the plague. The abbot, an old man with a trembling voice, struggles to maintain order, but the monks whisper of doubt. Why did God allow such suffering? Why did the pious die while others lived? The monastery, once a place of certainty, becomes a place of questions. Across Europe, the church's authority wanes. People turn to new voices, preachers who speak of reform, mystics who claim visions, lay groups who take up the work of charity. Confraternities, small bands of men and women, bury the dead, tend the sick and offer prayers where priests are absent. Their work is quiet, but it plants seeds of change, challenging the church's grip on the soul of Europe. Art and culture, too, begin to shift. Imagine a painter's workshop in Siena, its air heavy with the scent of pigment and oil, its walls lined with half-finished panels. The artist, once known for images of saints, now paints scenes of death skeletons dancing with kings, peasants, and priests. These images, born in the plague's shadow, are not just warnings, but reflections of a society grappling with its own mortality. The Danse Macabre, as it will later be called, is a reminder that death is universal, but also a strange comfort, a way to make sense of loss. In churches, sermons take on a new tone, urging repentance, but also hope. The art and words of this time carry a weight, a blend of grief and resilience that will echo through the centuries. The survivors, whether peasant or noble, find themselves in a world both broken and open. Imagine a village in southern Germany, its houses fewer, its streets quieter. The air smells of fresh earth and wood smoke, the fields dotted with new crops planted by those who remain. A woman, once a serf, now owns a small plot, inherited from her brother who died. She works it with her children, her hands steady, her heart cautious but hopeful. Nearby, a merchant builds a new house, its walls rising where another once stood. The village is not what it was, but it is alive, its rhythm slower but persistent. The survivors, through their work, their choices, their stubborn endurance, are rebuilding not just their lives, but the world itself. As you listen, let the images settle around you: the empty manor, the bustling city, the quiet monastery. Hear the creak of a plough, the clink of coins, the soft chant of a prayer. The Black Death has taken much, but it has also given something a chance to reshape, to rethink, to begin again. Let the rhythm of this tale carry you, gentle and unhurried. as we continue to explore the lives of those who survived and the world they built from the ashes. The night is soft around you, its stillness a gentle cradle for the story unfolding. Imagine yourself standing in the aftermath of the Black Death in a Europe where the air feels lighter, not because the plague is gone, but because those who remain have begun to carve out a new existence from the ruins. The fields are quieter, the cities emptier, but there is a hum of activity, a faint pulse of life stirring beneath the surface. The scent of fresh-turned earth mingles with the smoke of hearths reignited, and the distant sound of a hammer striking wood echoes through the dusk. This is the world of the survivors, peasants who found power, merchants who seized wealth, and communities that turned toward faith, mysticism, or hedonism to make sense of their survival. Let your mind drift, carried by the steady rhythm of this tale, as we continue to explore how the plague reshaped society, birthing a new order from the ashes of the old. Picture a small town in northern Italy, its streets narrow and winding, its houses built of stone and timber. The air carries the scent of baking bread and the faint tang of wine, a sign that life, however fragile, persists. The town's market, once a bustling hub, is smaller now, its stalls tended by fewer hands. But among those hands is a woman named Lucia, a weaver who inherited her husband's loom when the plague took him. Her fingers move with practiced ease, threading wool through the wooden frame, the soft clack of the shuttle a steady rhythm. Before the plague, she worked under her husband's name, her labor unacknowledged. Now, she sells her cloth directly to merchants, her coin purse heavier each week. The guild, once closed to women, bends under the weight of necessity, allowing her to join its ranks. Lucia's story is not unique across Europe. Women like her step into roles left vacant by the dead. They work a quiet revolution in a world that once bound them tightly. In the countryside, the changes are even more profound. Imagine a village in England, its fields stretching toward a horizon softened by mist. The manor house at the village's edge stands half empty, its lord dead, his heirs too young or too distant to enforce his will. The peasants who remain those who survived the fever, the hunger, the fear, find themselves with choices they never had before. A man named John, once a serf bound to the land, now works a field he calls his own. The plague took his lord's family, leaving the land unclaimed, and John, with no one to stop him, has planted barley where weeds once grew. His hands, rough from years of labor, grip the plow with a new purpose. He is not alone. Across the countryside, peasants demand wages, refuse to work for free, or flee to cities where labor is scarce and pay is high. The feudal ties that once held them obligations to lords, to the land are loosening, their threads fraying like an old tapestry. This shift sparks tension. Imagine a meeting in a manor hall, its walls hung with faded tapestries, its air cool and musty. The lord's steward, a man with a pinched face and ink-stained fingers, faces a group of peasants. Their voices are low but firm, demanding payment for their work. The steward, clinging to the old ways, threatens punishment, but his threats feel hollow. There are too few workers now, and the fields will lie fallow without them. In some places, lords grant concessions, higher wages, fewer days of forced labor, while in others, they resist, clinging to their power. But the plague has tipped the balance, and the peasants know it. In England, laws are passed to cap wages, to force workers back to the land, but they are like walls of sand against a tide. The survivors, once voiceless, begin to speak, their demands a quiet chorus that grows louder with each passing season. The cities, too, are transformed. Picture a street in Bruges, its canals reflecting the soft light of dawn, its air rich with the scent of wool and spice. The city, once a hub of trade, lost half its people to the plague, but those who remain are rebuilding. A young man, once a laborer, now owns a small shop, selling cloth to merchants who sail to distant ports. His hands, once blistered from hauling stone, now count coins. His future brighter than he ever dreamed. The guilds, weakened by the loss of their members, open their doors to new faces, apprentices, widows, even former serfs. The streets, though quieter, hum with new energy. as survivors stake their claim in a world that needs their skills. The markets, though smaller, are alive again, their stalls filled with goods bartered by those who see opportunity in the chaos. The wealthy, too, find ways to prosper. Imagine a merchant's house in Venice, its walls adorned with frescoes, its windows overlooking a shimmering canal. The merchant, a man named Marco, survived the plague by sealing himself in his home, burning herbs to keep the air pure. While others perished, he watched and waited, buying land from those who could no longer hold it. Widows sold their fields, nobles their estates, and Marco's wealth grew. Now, he walks the city with confidence, his robes finer than before, his influence stretching beyond the canals. He is not alone. Across Europe, men like Marco merchants, minor lords, even clever peasants inherit land, titles, and power from those who fell. The plague, in its cruelty, creates a new elite, their fortunes built on the ruins of the old. But not all turn to wealth or power. Some survivors seek meaning in faith, others in excess. Imagine a monastery in southern France, its cloisters quiet, its gardens overgrown. The monks, fewer now, gather in the chapel, their voices soft as they chant. The plague shook their faith, but it also deepened it, drawing some to mysticism. A young monk, his face pale, claims visions of angels, his words spreading to the villages below. Confraternities, lay groups of men and women, take up the work of the church, tending the sick, burying the dead. Their charity is a quiet rebellion against despair, a way to rebuild not just buildings but bonds. In other places, the response is different. Picture a tavern in Florence, its air thick with the scent of wine and sweat. Here, survivors gather, their laughter loud, their cups overflowing. The plague taught them life is fleeting, and they embrace it with a reckless joy, spending coin on feasts and finery, living as if tomorrow might not come. The church, once the cornerstone of Europe, struggles to hold its ground. Imagine a cathedral in York, its spire piercing a clouded sky, its pews half filled. The priests, many new and untrained, speak of repentance, but their words lack the certainty of before. The plagues told dead priests, empty monasteries. Questioning faithful has weakened the church's authority. Reformers begin to emerge, their voices soft but persistent, calling for a return to simplicity, to a faith unburdened by wealth and ritual. These calls are whispers now, but they will grow, planting seeds that will bloom in later centuries. For now, the church remains, its bells still tolling, its candles still burning, a beacon in a world that needs light. Art, too, carries the plague's mark. Imagine a sculptor's workshop in Siena, its air heavy with the scent of stone dust and wax. The sculptor, once known for statues of saints, now carves a figure of death, a skeletal form holding a scythe, its face serene yet stern. These images, born in the plague's shadow, are not just warnings, but meditations on life's fragility. In churches, frescoes begin to show the triumph of death, with kings and peasants alike falling to its touch. The art is somber, but it is also a bridge connecting the living to the lost, offering a way to mourn and move forward. The stories told in paint and stone are a quiet legacy, a reminder that even in ruin, humanity creates. The survivors, whether rich or poor, are the architects of this new world. Imagine a village in Castile, its houses rebuilt with fresh timber, its fields planted anew. A woman, once a serf, now tends a garden, her children playing nearby. A merchant, his wealth grown through clever deals, builds a new mill, its will turning with the stream. The village is smaller, its scars visible, but it lives. The rhythm of life, planting, building, praying returns, slower but stronger, a testament to those who endured. The plague took much, but it left behind a world where power shifted, where voices once silenced began to speak, where the future, though uncertain, held promise. As you listen, let the images settle: the weaver's loom, the peasant's plough, the merchant's coins. Hear the soft clack of the shuttle, the creak of the mill, the low chant of a monk. The Black Death was a storm, but it was also a turning point, a moment when the world paused, then began again. Let this tale carry you, gentle and unhurried, toward a quiet reflection on the past and the comfort of your present as we draw this journey to a close. As the night settles deep around you, its quiet embrace soft as a whisper, let your mind linger in the fading echoes of a world reshaped by the Black Death. The air of that distant time, heavy with the scent of burning herbs and the weight of loss, has carried us through villages and cities, through the lives of peasants, nobles, and dreamers who faced an invisible foe. We've walked the muddy paths of a plague-stricken village, felt the rhythm of a day where every breath was a gamble. We've retraced the plague's relentless march from the ports of Crimea to the heart of Europe, watching as it unraveled feudal bonds and sowed the seeds of a new era. We've stood in the shadow of flagellants, their chants rising like a tide, and witnessed the strange, desperate acts, pogroms, quarantines, and the fleeting hope of beaked masks that marked humanity's response. And we've seen the survivors, from lords to laborers, rebuild a world from its ashes, their hands shaping a future both fragile and bold. Imagine yourself now standing at the edge of that 14th century landscape, the horizon softening under a twilight sky. The fields once abandoned are dotted with new growth, their green tips piercing the earth like a quiet promise. The streets of cities, though scarred, hum with the voices of those who remain, merchants counting coins, weavers at their looms, peasants claiming land that was never theirs before. The air still carries the faint tang of smoke, but it mingles now with the scent of fresh bread, of wood newly cut, of life persisting. The Black Death was a storm, a shadow that swept across a continent, but it was also a turning point. It broke the old order feudal ties, rigid hierarchies, unquestioned faith, and left space for something new. The survivors, with their calloused hands and cautious hopes, built not just homes, but a world where power shifted, where voices once silenced began to speak, where the seeds of the Renaissance took root. This is the rhythm of history, a cycle of ruin and renewal, of loss and resilience. The plague took millions, its toll measured in empty villages and overflowing graves, but it could not take the stubborn pulse of human endurance. Picture a woman in a small Italian town, her hands weaving cloth that will sail across seas, her work a thread in the tapestry of a new economy. See a peasant in England, his plough cutting fresh furrows, his labour no longer bound to a lord's will. Hear the soft chant of a monk in a quiet monastery, his prayers mingling with questions that will shape centuries to come. These are not heroes in the way stories often tell, but ordinary souls who carried on, their lives a testament to the quiet strength that rebuilds when all seems lost. As you listen, let the weight of this story settle around you, not as a burden, but as a gentle reminder of the distance between then and now. The world of 1348, with its carts of the dead and its air thick with fear, is far removed from the comfort of your present. Your bed is soft, your room warm, the night outside a gentle hum rather than a chorus of dread. The plague's shadow has long faded, its lessons woven into the fabric of history, quarantines that birthed public health, questions that sparked reform, survivors who reshaped society. Yet there is something universal in their story, something that resonates across centuries, the rhythm of their lives mending, planting, praying, enduring echoes in our own. A reminder that even in the darkest times, humanity finds a way to carry on. Close your eyes, if you haven't already, and let the images linger. The creak of a cart fades into the distance, replaced by the soft rustle of leaves in a breeze. The toll of a bell softens, its notes blending with the quiet of your own breath. The scent of burning herbs gives way to the calm of your room, its air clean and still. History is not just a record of what was, but a mirror reflecting the resilience that binds us to those who came before. The Black Death was a chapter of loss, but also of beginnings, a story of a world that ended, and a world that began anew. Let that thought cradle you, a gentle bridge between past and present, as you drift toward sleep, and as you rest, carried by the rhythm of this tale. Consider this an invitation to return. Our journey through history is far from over. There are more stories to tell, more worlds to wander, each one a quiet path to guide you into the night. If you found solace in this tale, if the slow, steady cadence of history has eased your mind, we invite you to subscribe to Boring History for Sleep. Join us for more journeys into the past, where the whispers of long-ago lives become a lullaby for your nights. Click the subscribe button and let us carry you, night after night, into the gentle embrace of history's embrace. For now, rest well and let the world fade, soft and quiet into dreams.